The June 15th meeting of the Raleigh Parks, Recreation, and Advisory and Greenway Advisory Board. Glad to see those members in attendance here. And the first thing that we do after we call the meeting to order is have public comment. And so I have a list of folks. I'll call your name and you can come up and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The first person is Kay Meningus. Okay, we're going to work on handwriting. Reading. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Board. My name is Kay Meningus. I live on Forest Lawn Court, and I have before me some emails, and you guys were supposed to get a copy of this, and unfortunately it's not going to happen, and sorry about it, but it's just the way it is. So continuing on, the emails are between Todd Malam, who is the Greenway planner, and Ridgelock HOA in September of 2015. And I'm going to read to you some of the emails. And the first one is from Todd to our HOA board. And it says, based on the apparent unanimous support from the residents and the HOA to keep the trail on the east side of the stream, we've decided to proceed with the proposal to repair the trail and keep it on the east side of the stream. On that same page with the emails, it's still one from Todd, and he says, we've decided to proceed with the repairs as opposed to the relocation. And then there's the next page, and that email is to Todd from our HOA. And it says, would you please clarify that the decision to repair Mine Creek section rather than move it to the Ridgelock side is a final one and is not under any further consideration? And Todd does reply back, and his response was, yes, we will only be looking at repairing the existing section and the bridges and moving forward. So now, at that time, Forest Lawn residents were very happy and relieved, and so many decided to stay and not move, and they began reinvesting in their homes. We took value in those words, and we took them as truthful. And so my question to you is, what value do you put on those words? And what legacy do you want to leave behind for the next 10, 20, 30 years? And also, I have been online looking at other parks and bridges in Wake County, and I have seen the work that you all can do. And at this time, you guys have the perfect opportunity to create a new and a beautiful space, something that is very memorable, an extraordinary space for future trail users, and something that you could be proud to attach your name to. Or do you want to leave behind a simple, forgettable, straight line path right through someone's backyard? Now, although many of you right here were not directly involved in that 2009 and 2015 decision, you still must decide if those comments that were made at that time are honored. And as I look at your faces now, I hope that I see some honorable faces looking back at me. So I'm asking you to please consider what I've said about your legacy and how you want to be remembered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Meningus. The next person to speak is Tony Strickland.
Ready?
Good evening, yes.
Good evening. My name is Tony. I represent Ridgelock. I'm a CPA for 40 years, and I like to look at numbers. So I want to start with the email from 2015 that said we will only be looking at the existing section and existing bridges moving forward. $210,000 was allotted by the 2014 bond referendum to replace, not destroy, the 2 bridges on Ironwood Trail. The actual promotion for the bond referendum was a picture of the bridges that were to be replaced. Why was no forward action taken for 7 years? Why the delay? According to the Parks Department, the project was delayed in order to coordinate with the Water and Sewer Department, which would add a new sewer line on Ironwood Trail. Sounds reasonable for a delay. However, when the plan was represented to the public, which was to relocate the trail on the Ridgelock side, it became apparent that no coordination between Water and Sewer and the Parks Department was needed. Only a sleeve was to be added on the Ridgelock side to increase the amount of flow. For you concerned taxpayers, think of the cost to replace the bridges at $210,000 then in 2014, and now to the $1.7 million proposal today, replace the bridges and repair the trail, bring it all up to code. Now let's look at the current proposed $750,000 to construct the trail on the Ridgelock side. Consider this: Ridgelock will request a solid 8-foot high fence that stretches over 900 feet. That's 3 football fields. Only this type of fence will offer the privacy and safety they require. Add that to the budget. So maintenance of this wall will be the city's responsibility. That maintenance on the football size field, a wall will be for both sides of the fence, forever in the city's budget. Also, each homeowner will pursue a minimum of 10% loss in property value for losing their back spaces and aesthetic views. Right now, that's about $2,750 per unit times 16. Add that to the budget. Ridgelock will lose all the land beyond the fence. The $70,000 acquisition offered is nowhere close to acceptance. Yes, the city can take our land, but not at a discount. Add that to the budget. You need to take a hard look at these two options and the overall cost. Let's face the facts. Ironwood and the two bridges in the parks is a parks problem and require a park solution, and Ridgelock should be left out of the mix. Perhaps the solution would be to use part of the $5.65 million allocated by the 2022 bond referendum for renovation of the Mine Creek Trail that includes the two bridges. When you start adding up the real cost between the two options, you may just find the option to keep Ironwood in its present location is the better deal. Like I said, I was an accountant for 40 years, so I know numbers backwards and forwards, and I can do them every way to Sunday. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Marilyn Alpin.
Good evening. I'm Marilyn Alphin, and I live at Pinetop Circle in Ridgelock. Ironwood Trail is in disarray. It's a mess. How did we get there? Let's flash back 50 years ago. Ironwood became the first trail on what is now the Capital Area Greenway, opened in 1976. I have a question. Why did the founders of the Greenway decide to build two bridges 250 yards apart over Mine Creek when they could have done something much cheaper and simpler by constructing a straight line path, what you're trying to do now? At that time, there was nothing there, nothing, no ridgelock, just cheap floodplain land. Why did they do that? Is because they wanted to create something special, something unique, something memorable. Ironwood was to capture the spirit of what the Greenway was to be about, a park with a city inside of it. Now back to the present. Ironwood has never had a major renovation in the 50 years of its existence, while many newer trails have had their turn. An example, Lake Lynn Trail was completed in 1996. It got $1 million renovation 25 years later, and that was just for 3/4 of a mile. What would Lake Lynn look like if it had not been renovated for 50 years? Guess it would have looked like Ironwood. Parks Department has stabilized streams up and down the Greenway. Mine Creek never got that stabilization. What would it look like if all those streams had not been stabilized for 50 years? Guess it would have looked like Ironwood. You are aware of the attempts to renovate in 2009, 2014, 2015. Nothing done, nothing done, nothing done. As an advisory board, you were not involved in these decisions. We understand that. But you must decide who pays for these years of neglect, lack of foresight, delays, promises made, promises broken. Who pays? Do you really believe the Forest Lawn residents should pay by turning their sense of home upside down? Or do you believe the Parks Department should finally come to terms with their own neglect, delays, and fix the trail? That's it. Simple. Just fix it. That's what you all do, and you do a magnificent job. This historical section of the Greenway deserves your attention, deserves your expertise, and above all, it deserves to keep its rightful place in the annuals of your own history. A quick quote from John F. Kennedy, 1962. "We do not do these things because they're easy. We do these things because they're hard." I hope that you can find a little of that JFK spirit and the spirit of the early Greenway founders and do that which is hard. Doing what is hard requires courage. Kay said that she hoped she would see honor among your faces. I hope I can see courage. If you have honor and you find the courage, you can make the hard choice, because in this case, what is hard is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alphen. Sarah Mason is the next speaker.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm a resident of Ridgelock community directly impacted by the relocation of the Mine Creek Trail. I found this community 2 years ago when I fell in love with the privacy and serenity that surrounded the home. I'm an ICU nurse. I have worked through the pandemic here in Raleigh, and I was searching for a home that could help me relax and ease anxiety when I come home. When I purchased my home, I was excited to have privacy with only nature in the backyard. I love the convenience of the trail and walk it often. However, the thought of a highly trafficked path with hundreds of people walking through our backyards daily makes me fearful for my safety and my future family that I had intended to build in this home. The Ironwood Trail is historic. It is a landmark of Raleigh. The Greenway was purposefully built to be a walk through the woods. What has been proposed is a new pathway and a disturbance in addition to the sewer construction that is happening on the side where the trail already exists. Realignment is a misrepresentation of what is being proposed here. This is a new proposed pathway that would be a matter of feet from our back doors when it is currently not visible nor ever designed to be visible. Erosion of the creek is ongoing and will still need to be dealt with in the years to come, regardless of what is done with the bridges. In April, you discussed how repairing the existing path will impact 3 homes with backyards already established. I am here to speak for the 14 homeowners that the new design will negatively affect. The sewer project is already approved and will require significant construction on the existing path side. The Ridgelock community will not have significant sewer construction. The proposal would require additional construction, essentially from our back decks to the properties on the other side of the creek. The bridges are arguably one of the most beautiful parts of the path. Their upkeep and repair is worth investing in for all taxpayers of Raleigh. I ask that you please vote to repair the bridges, keep the path as it was historically made to be, and to allow the privacy of the Ridgelock community to be as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mason. Lynn Taylor.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Taylor. I'm a resident of Inman Park. I live at 1701 Stannard Trail. As a Greenway enthusiast, I want to thank you, the Parks Recreation and Greenway Advisory Board, for this opportunity to speak on the proposed realignment of the Greenway just north of Inman Park. I understand that there are 2 options being considered. I am here to advocate for Ironwood. I would love to see the replacement of the existing 2 pedestrian structures labeled number 32 and number 33 with new structures and asphalt and stabilization of the banks. As an office worker and city dweller, the bucolic nature of the existing trail is restorative and refreshing to me. Every time I reach the bridges, I pause to peer into the creek below. One never knows what they will see, but I have witnessed families of ducks and deer, raccoons and cranes, turtles, birds, etc., all making their home nearby. Trail users will be deprived of this wonder of the Greenway if it's moved behind the apartments. It will become a stark contrast to what is Ironwood. The 2014 Parks Bond referendum was passed by the citizens to maintain this rustic passage through the city for the leisure, pleasure, and exercise. I hope you will appropriate the necessary funding for the upkeep of these existing structures and stabilize the Greenway in its present location. Please save our bridges. Thank you for your consideration and your service to the citizens of Wake County.
Thank you very much. Next up is Piper Miller. And then after that, John Johnson and Elizabeth School.
Hi, I'm Finn Miller, and this is my twin sister Piper, and we are rising sophomores at Cary Academy, as well as lifelong citizens of Raleigh. We live in French Woods neighborhood and are here to speak against the removal of the 2 bridges on the Mine Creek Trail near Shelley Lake. We believe these scenic bridges enhance the Greenway in a way that a simple path never can.
Get a little closer to the mic since we're recording this.
Sorry. We believe these scenic bridges enhance the Greenway in the way that a simple path never can. The elimination of said bridges would detract from the Greenway. What I love about this section of the Greenway is the river. For most of the path, we merely walk alongside the river, but these bridges are a unique chance to cross it. The bridges add variety and beauty to the path. The view of the river banked by the River Cane from the bridge is pretty, and the path on the other side adds some nice variety. Without these 2 bridges, we lose all that.
As I walk through the Greenway, I enjoy the peaceful noise of nature and people chatting around me. My brother and I often walk through the Greenway with our neighborhood friends because it's a way to escape their houses surrounding us, and it's an amazing place to hang out or walk. By removing the bridges, we would be going through the backyards of 14 families' homes. I would much rather look to my left and see a creek filled with water-worn rocks and preening ducks than 14 townhomes with a family staring back. The spirit of the Greenway is not to take the most direct, clear-cut path. The spirit of the Greenway is to meander through the city's beautiful natural green spaces. We both firmly believe the Greenway wouldn't be the same without these bridges, and you should not take them down. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you all. John Johnson and Elizabeth Scholl, and if you want to be ready.
Good evening, and thank you guys for all the work you're doing. I'm John Johnson. I live at 4612 Gunston Place, which is on the downstream side of this creek, right at North Hills Drive. And I had raised 2 boys riding up that creek to the lake. And it is beautiful, particularly when you cross the first bridge to the south. You get into the pine trees. And we named it Sherwood Forest, Enchanted Forest, because you're in a cleared area all the way up, and suddenly you're there, and you can look up, and there's owls, there are hawks. I mean, there are things to see, but when you get on the bridge, you can look down. And that's the thing that I realized when I was out the other day to look. I looked down there, 2 pairs of mallards that you don't see walking beside the creek. You've got to be on the bridge looking over. You don't see them. If you're walking beside it, you have the embankment there, and between the trail and the embankment, you're going to have a lot of heavily wooded area, and I can tell you there are a lot of copperhead moccasins and the cottonmouth water moccasin. The cottonmouths are down in the creek, but the copperheads like the rocks, so they're up there, and I have seen some very big ones. I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor, been doing this for 50 years, and the thing that I see is so much of nature is not given to the children now. I mean, we have the Marbles Museum, which is wonderful, but for kids to go out and see things there in the natural state. I mean, I grew up playing with salamanders and frogs and all that, and that is part of it, to let them see what is there. And I will say a kid that's 3 feet tall walking on the Greenway doesn't get to see the creek. I mean, he can't see it. I can barely look in. But when you're on a bridge looking down, you can see there's a fish down there, and also there's several other animals that the fish is chasing. And it's just amazing to see what you can see from it. So that's the big part of the preservation of those two bridges that I see. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's a wonderful place for somebody to take a respite from the run and look over and enjoy nature. And I think that's the purpose of Greenways. I mean, I'm a very big proponent of Greenways, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Scholl, and I'll admit I'm very nervous to be up here, but I felt it was important. I'm an endurance athlete, and as such, I spend a lot of time on the Greenways. The area you're proposing to relocate is, as has been stated many times, arguably the most beautiful section of the Raleigh Greenway system. And like others have said, I always look down when I go past. I look into the water. I always hope to catch sight of a heron fishing or some of the ducks swimming by. Study after study supports the importance of green space in our cities and our suburbs. It's important to our physical health, and it's important to our mental health. And the residents of Raleigh consistently voice their opinion about the importance of green space in our lives at the ballot box. We support our parks, and we support our outdoor recreation. To not honor those voices and to not honor that green space that's heavily utilized is to not honor our voices. Every day when I'm out there on the Greenway running and biking, and I am out there almost every day, even in the rain, I see the signs up now that talk about relocating those bridges. And every day when I see them, a song comes to mind that I suspect many of you are familiar with. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. I ask you to please consider keeping our paradise intact. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that reflects all of the public comment for the evening. So thank you for those who have come and shared your thoughts with us. And we will, not on our agenda, the next thing is the Raleigh Youth Council. However, they do not meet during the summertime. School is out, and so they will meet again in September and present to us at that time. So that will not be something we hear from. And then the next item on our agenda is the Mine Creek Trail Improvement Project.
I get help to put on my glasses. Okay. Yep, got it. Actually, I'm going to go to the actual PowerPoint. Sorry about that. Oh.
For the benefit of
Okay.
some of you all, before you get started, Lisa,
Yeah.
What we're hearing tonight, we've heard a version of this presentation several times, and many of you have been here to speak. We requested at our March meeting, I believe, additional information on the impact of the water project, the sewer project, not just on we know that we are very aware that on the Ridgelock side it will be sleeved, but on the other side, on the current side of the Greenway, there is much more construction, and so that's what we've asked for an update, and that's what we'll be getting.
Yep, and I was going to mention that, but good evening, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Lisa Schiffbauer. I am the Senior Engineering Supervisor for Raleigh Parks. I also have here tonight Todd Toller. He's also staff member with Raleigh Water, and he'll be here to answer any specific questions related to the Raleigh water project along Mine Creek. So we are back here today with additional discussion regarding the project, so the board can receive this additional information regarding the impacts as a result of the Raleigh water sewer project before concluding with any recommendation. With that being said, I am going to be reviewing some information that you have heard in past presentations as a refresher to the project. And so here are a couple of things I'm going to cover. The project background, I'll quickly go over those alignment options once again. And finally, we will look at the Mine Creek Sewer Project and impacts. This is just to orient everybody where within the Greenway system in the city the project location is. It's just south of Shelley Lake, north of Crabtree Creek Trail, north of 440. And on the smaller blowout, you can see a zoomed in copy or a zoomed in map of Forest Lawn Court, which a lot of the residents here tonight live along, Ridgelock community, and to the east, the Briarwood community. So this slide covers project history. The need to replace these structures was identified prior to 2009 as a result of the recommendation from our Greenway inspection report. That report indicated that the structures were proposed to be, or the recommendation was for the structures to be replaced at some time in the near future. The structures that we're discussing, structures 32 and 33, they were built in the late 1970s along with the section of Mine Creek, which used to be called the Ironwood Trail. The structures are timber, decking, they're 8 foot in width, which is less than our current standard, which is 10 feet. And that's primarily to deal with the high use of our Greenway system now. We have a lot of users that are, biking and walking. So 2009, there was some engagement efforts as a result of that recommendation. And that resulted to maintain those structures in place. As a result of that, in 2014, prior to 2014, when we were discussing bond funding, those projects to replace the structures were included in the 2014 bond. In 2015, when we were implementing those bond projects, there was an reevaluation of a potential realignment. We then had additional engagement efforts, and again resulting in the decision to maintain the current alignment. Fast forward, there was coordination with Raleigh Water early in 2015. We knew of the Mine Creek Sewer Project that was going to be in the near future. So we started coordinating those efforts with the Raleigh Water team. Most recently, the engagement efforts that took place were in 2022 and 23, and again, revisiting that option to eliminate the structures and realign. And this is just here an outline of those engagement efforts starting in June through the Parks Board review that happened this March. So as part of those engagement efforts, we did receive a lot of community feedback. And this is a summary of the concerns that the adjacent community has had. I did include their memo in your backup information that we received a few months ago, and that was also included in the information that provided in March. So safety and security, the concern of, and you've heard a lot of this tonight, but the proximity to homes, concern of crime, concern of privacy and noise that could occur as part of the Greenway. They have sliding glass doors in the back of their patios with open patio decks. The concern of public use of their private street, which is the Forest Lawn Court, and concern of Greenway users using their parking area to park. Aesthetics and fencing, that was a primary aesthetic theme of privacy and what that screening material would look like, as opposed to the natural setting that they currently see. There was concern of maintenance and operation. Who would be responsible for picking up trash? Who would be responsible for maintaining that fence? And operationally, who would be responsible for keeping oversight of who's parking in their parking lot or not? The road of Forest Lawn Court is currently in not the greatest condition, so there was concern that additional traffic would impact that. They're also concerned about community expense and residents having to install cameras to keep surveillance. Greenway acquisition, this relocation would require acquisition of HOA land, as there's not a current Greenway easement. There was concern about property values as well, and then environmental impacts and what the project would potentially do to disturbance to wildlife. At the March Parks Board meeting, staff did provide responses on how these items could be addressed, such as providing quality privacy fencing, signage on private property, including monitoring of parking. I just also want to note that there was additional comment received since March, and I included those emails in your backup information as well. Okay, so on to the alignment options. Just to orient you, there's a legend. The thick green line is the existing trail. The brown are the structures. The thin green line with the round items, the round, let's see here. So those things right there, those are sewer manholes, and then the lines connecting. All right, so just to review some pros and cons, in the backup material, there's more pros and cons listed. I tried to highlight some of the major themes. So one of the pros for this, keeping the realignment in this location, is that there are 3 property owners to potentially inquire with about temporary construction easement. If we were to do any kind of stream restoration, there would be a potential for having to relocate the trail a little bit further back and potentially have some temporary construction easements needed from those 3 properties with the yellow triangle. Some of the cons of relocating here, we talked about the sight lines. Currently, there's some pretty sharp turns when you transition from the trail to the bridges. A lot of that site visibility has to do with the current trees that are there. And I'll show you some pictures in a moment. But a lot of the trees are very large, a lot of pine trees. So that does help, that does restrict site visibility. With this replacement, there will be about approximately 37 trees that are 8 inches or greater in diameter that will have to be removed. That doesn't count for any of the smaller trees. And then just thinking about the resiliency of the system, we have a lot of places in Raleigh with our Greenway system where as we rehab the Greenway Trail, we're considering what the future modeling of that stream looks like and what potential impacts and resiliency, what impacts the stream could have on the resiliency of the system. And then just long-term maintenance of care of the structures. So these are some pictures of the existing trail. You can see existing structures. You can see the slope of the stream bank and how vertical it is, and how there's a need to do some restoration of that in order to put the trail back in that location. You can see on the bottom right, you can see this is looking over at the townhomes across the stream from the existing trail. But you can see a lot of the existing trees and how the existing trees do cause site visibility concerns for us. So this is the alignment option 1. This is showing the existing trail with the bridges, and these red X's are representing those trees that are 8 inches and greater in diameter that would be removed in the event we did replace the bridges and the trail in this location. This is alignment option 2, relocating to the west side of the creek. I have some pros and cons listed here. For safety, this provides better direct alignment for safety of trail users, not having to have hard turns in that transition from the trail to the structures. The minimal tree removal is approximately 4 trees, well, exactly 4 trees located. And I have a map that shows that too. And then in front of you, Giovanna had handed out some maps as well that show that tree removal. And then this would help improve maintenance access without having to have our maintenance trucks cross again at those sharp angles and eliminate any future maintenance of the structures. There's very minimal environmental impact associated with this alignment, as the realignment does utilize existing utility easement that is already clear. Permitting with this option, there is not any kind of flood study that would be required as part of this realignment. With option 1, there'd just be additional permitting. So as far as the cons, just like the alignment option 1, there would be easement acquisition. With here, we would be working strictly with the HOA, which has many residents that would weigh into that conversation. And then it's closer to residential structures. So 38 to 69 feet from the actual structure to the trail. Here's some pictures of the proposed alignment. This is the open sewer that is located behind Forest Lawn Court, Ridgelock Townhomes. And again, another map just to show you from a different perspective, mostly to show the tree removal impacts associated with this alignment. Okay, so yes.
What was sorry. Along the bottom it had menu, and you may have said it. What was the cost estimate for the realignment?
The cost for realignment
on the previous slide. The little
sure.
The menu blocks. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
What's the project estimate?
Just says project estimate at the bottom. Yeah.
Let me go back to my sheet here on my handout so I could give that to you. Thank you, Stephen. Need that training. So the project estimate is $525,000 to $600,000. That's just an estimate.
Thanks.
The estimate on the other one, so go back here to this, and that's primarily because of stream bank stabilization and also structures and mobilization to get the structures to those locations is quite expensive. Okay, so I was on this fencing slide here, and this is just to show some options for, and there's many options, and this is just some attractive options for fencing and what that potentially could look like here. And again, one of our resolutions to dealing with the aesthetics is really working with the community on what kind of fencing they would want. And these are some ideas, but again, there are plenty opportunities for styles of fence. I have a couple slides in here that show other communities that have close access or close proximity to existing trails. This is something that came up in previous conversations. So here I have, you can see the Vineyard townhomes here. And, you know, this approximately 60 feet. So that is the Walnut Creek Trail, the Vineyard Community Townhomes. Another Walnut Creek community, Walnut Ridge community. You can see the close proximity there is 41 feet. And you get some pictures on the right that show that. The Land's End at Eagle Chase community with a distance of 54 feet to the closest structure. And these distances are not to property lines, they're to actual structures. East Fork Mine Creek in northern part of Raleigh off of Six Forks. Mm-hmm. This one's a little bit further, approximately 80 feet. This is the Sims Branch Trail in the community of reserve at Durant Trails, approximately 55 feet to their townhome structures. So that was the end of those slides with that comparison. So now I'm going to jump into the Mine Creek Sanitary Sewer project and give you some information. Here again, I have Todd Toller that can answer real specific questions. But this is the scope for this project. There's approximately 12,600 linear feet of sewer line that needs to either be replaced or sleeved. Primarily on the east side of Mine Creek, that sewer will be replaced with a larger diameter pipe. On the west side, it'll be upgraded with liner. So it'll be sleeved, so the disruption as far as construction is less than what you would see with a sewer replacement or with a pipe replacement. As part of that project, as we know, a lot of our greenway does follow sewer easements. And so when there are upgrades to the sewer, which thankfully last, won't have to come back into this location for hopefully 50 plus years. But it's an opportunity for us to look at conditions that may need to be improved. So we work closely with Raleigh Water on projects for those types of replacements and working very closely with Todd on the sections of Mine Creek that would need to be replaced as part of the sewer project. In addition to that, we are realigning, as part of the sewer project, we are realigning Mine Creek the closer you get to Crabtree Creek. And the map that I have on the right, it shows in the red box, that is the location of where we will be eliminating a structure and realigning the Mine Creek to the east side of the creek. And that is primarily to eliminate a structure. There's a great opportunity here to do that. And that construction is proposed to begin early 2025. Here's a comparison between option 1 and option 2. I'll just give you a moment to look at those comparisons, looking at easement acquisition, user safety, that experience, tree removal impacts, stream impact, permitting. Does this option create a gap in the system, long-term maintenance access, and that project cost again. Okay. So, and again, I have a handout that you all received, so if you wanted to get a closer view of this map, it's the very last page. And you had all asked in the March meeting more information on the sewer project and what impacts it would have. So what you're looking at here is the Ridgelock community being on the top of the screen or the top of your map, and the blue, or I'm sorry, that's purple, the two purple lines with the dash in between. The dash is, use my highlighter. This is the actual pipe underground. And this is what is going to be sleeved. And then on the south side of the page, south side of the creek, this is Briarwood community. And what you see in blue is the existing sewer easement. What is in that light purple is additional easement that Raleigh Water will be pursuing from these property owners in order to upgrade their sewer pipe in this location. So it's a 30-foot easement, and they're proposing a 40-foot easement. And what you see as X's, again, to compare to the option 2 and option 1, this is the trees that would be removed as part of the sewer project. And again, these are trees that are 8 inches in diameter and greater. Yes.
Please, for the board, define the symbols that are on here, FW, FP, and LOD, that were presented by your contractor.
Sure. So the FW is floodway limits, and I believe that's probably 100-year. So where a floodwater would go as part of a 100-year storm. And then the LOD is limits of disturbance. So that is limits of disturbance during construction associated with the sewer project. Was there another one? FP. Oh, that's floodplain. Yes.
Okay, thank you on that.
I think we're accustomed to seeing temporary construction easement terminology as opposed to what's there. So it's like difference.
I'm sorry.
Just unfamiliar terminology.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you had said it's the same thing. Some people here don't know those symbols.
Okay,
That's why
yep.
I asked.
That's a good
but
point.
It's essentially the same as a temporary construction easement.
The LOD?
The layer disturbance.
So that is the limit. So when you go to a construction site and you see that orange fencing, that typically distinguishes the extent of what the contractor is allowed to disturb.
Fence. Yeah. That's where the silt fence is.
Sometimes it's silt fence combination with tree protection fence. Yes.
Okie doke, thank you.
Lisa, Beverly,
but wait,
here.
I want to first ask her if she's
okay.
finished her slides.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. Then we'll begin questions, and I know there are a lot of questions for everybody, and so in order to give the opportunity for everybody to speak, I'm going to go through around the table, and I'm going to try and ask Giovanna if she can kind of keep us to 2 minutes per person so that we can get this. So, Dan, you're at that end. I'll let you, and you had a question, so I'll let you start.
Okay. This last page that you just pointed us to, the X's where the trees are for the sewer pipe replacement, that has to happen, correct? In other words, we need to keep that in mind as we're thinking that those trees, there's no overlap between those trees, and if we just do replacement of the current Ironwood Trail portion that has been referenced, those trees would go as well, correct?
That is correct. So in addition to if you chose option 2
Yes.
with replacement, these trees would be removed in addition to that.
Okay. Got it. This is a curiosity question, and as a frequent Greenway user as well, I have definitely seen portions of the Greenway. I'm thinking, and I can't think of the name. Beverly is so good with names of the sections of Greenway, but when I'm running along the Greenway from essentially McDonald's at Crabtree, and I start
Elf
running.
Creek.
Thank you. I knew it. So there are a couple of sections on the Greenway as it starts to go away from Crabtree and towards the Beltline, where there are little paths that seem to have little, and I've never stopped to kind of go off them, but they kind of spur off. They're not paved, but they're. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they're part of the Marshall Park.
Thank you. Okay. Always
It's very
learn.
interesting signage. You should stop and read it sometime.
I will. Thank you. So one of the things that I think that everybody who has seen this portion when we did the site visit and when we, as I hear people who live there and even people who don't, which I was glad we had some folks from Inman Park and Gunnison and others, it is quaint. That section just feels really good. And I get that. So one of the things I've been thinking about since our last meeting was if we needed to realign, I know that would be unpopular with some people, but if we had to realign and not replace because of cost and safety both from visibility and safety from access vehicles, things like that, could you keep the other trail and make it unpaved? Meaning where it becomes that little spur off of the Greenway that's does that make sense?
Yeah,
Where
yep.
we're not eradicating that. We're sort of saying it's there, still enjoy it, but we're not going to make that the main. It's a both and. Is that feasible, or does that just complicate the stink out of it?
Well, we would still have to put a bridge back.
Okay.
At least one at a minimum.
Okay.
In order to get people over, and then people would have to turn back and come back out the same way they came in. Or you could put 2 bridges, and at that point, if you're replacing that, then you have to decide whether or not just relocating in that same location is the best option.
My thinking is, and this will be my last point, is if the realignment goes off, but you still have that little section where you could, we don't have to widen the bridge. Maybe there's a safety component because of its age. But all of a sudden, that's no longer the Greenway path, but it still is a little spur path where we don't have to cut down trees. Because I'm sitting here looking at the trees from the sewer replacement right here, and then if we were to replace, which is what I've heard, all of a sudden we are cutting down so many trees in that section. If we could
Sure.
preserve the beauty and the little quaintness of that, I feel like that would at least. And we wouldn't be required to widen it and take away trees and things like that. It almost becomes, I don't know, like a.
We would have to replace the structures. The structures there have been continuously
Got it.
Made safe, but they do have timber decking. They don't, even if we took out, even if the substructure was okay, we would have to beef that substructure up to put concrete
Okay.
on it or replace the wood
Okay.
decking. There would be some options there to do that, but we would have to replace the structure. And
Okay.
potentially replacing that structure wouldn't require a 10-foot wide structure.
Right.
You could do.
And all the costs associated with removing the trees and the stream banks and things like that. So I'm putting that out for just as a thought for the board.
All right.
As in.
We're going to move along.
Yeah.
Time up.
Thank you, guys. Yep. Thank you.
We have a lot of comments. Mr. Johnston, I realize it's your first meeting, but I'm sure you have something to say.
Thank you. Actually, I'm looking at what I believe is the straight line of the new proposed route, and I'm wondering, and the topo map is a little difficult to read, but is there any room there to make that come closer to the vertical drop-off, not so close to the property line, it's at least at some points?
It's actually fairly close to the stream where it's proposed. It probably doesn't look like that on this map, but it's as close as we could potentially get so that permitting doesn't become a challenge for us. So at least staying in the outer 20 feet of the Neuse River buffer.
Okay, so the answer is probably not, and largely because of extra difficulty in permitting.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Ashcraft?
I am very sympathetic with the Ridgeline people. Thank you. I wasn't expecting to speak.
Oh, well, I'm just going around to give everybody that opportunity.
I'm just going to say that I'm very sympathetic because when I moved in my little house, it's on 1/10 of an acre lot, there was an open field across the street. There were 2 little houses next door about the size of a trailer. There was no storage warehouse behind me that I look at every day from my kitchen window. And there were and the little trailer houses were torn down, and now there's 2 McMansions there. And there's 18 townhomes across the street. I'm very, very sympathetic. I just want y'all to know that I know what it's like to be run over by a bulldozer, literally. And this is a very difficult issue for me because I have to vote on what's best for everybody. So I just want you to know that I'm very sympathetic to everything. I know I've left to Owen. There's the street behind me is had several houses torn down, and they're going to have 18 townhomes over there. So that's it.
Sean, do you have something?
Yeah, I just kind of piggyback what Miss Carol was saying. I'm very sympathetic as well. It's a lot of pros and cons to this matter, and I'm still contemplating on the decision. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that this board makes the correct decision in general for the people within the community and those that's going to be using that greenway as well. So,
ditto what Carol and Rashawn said. It's disturbing to me, the loss of trees. I live on a stream. I know what it's like to experience severe erosion and watching the changes. It's very difficult, and I'm still conflicted about where I'm going to vote about this. It's not easy. You have my sympathies.
Well, I have a lot of questions, and I even have, as Mr. Fletcher did, some alternative thoughts on this. I think when Raleigh Water first said there would be work, I assume you did not know that they would be sleeving one side and doing construction on the other. And so on that basis, I can understand not knowing whether or not you were going to be ripping up behind Ridgelock or sleeving, that you would wait and see, because then it would have made a difference to these people, and it would have made a difference on how to proceed. But we've known it's going to be sleeved for a while. And if it hadn't been sleeved, realignment over there might have made more sense. But when I'm able to compare the tree removal, which with the sewer is very extensive, I think it's 34 to 42 is what it says. But then when I apply that to overlap with the Ridgelock community and the additional easement that is required to be acquired it seems to me that moving not replacing the existing Greenway exactly where it is, but leaving, could not eliminate the trees closest to the creek, which was better for stream stabilization, but put the new bridges in and utilize some. And so my question for Mr. Fuller, I believe, is can we utilize, when you are acquiring this greenway, move the greenway a little further over from the creek, and then we would be sort of capitalizing, if you will, on the trees that are lost for the sewer easement, would mirror many of the trees that would go down for the greenway replacement. And I mean, until we saw this data on the sewer involvement, it was impossible to really look at not just Plan 1 and Plan 2, but is there a way to do Plan 3? And, you know,
Beverly, I'd love to understand a little better what you're
I've
recommending. Did you?
I've sketched it on mine, but I don't have a PowerPoint. But what the result of my sketch is that we would lose 11 trees that are impacted on this page. And what my sketch shows, I'll just be Vanna here.
That page is actually on the screen.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not tall enough, but coming that way and coming, instead of doing all the zig, but you're already going to lose, those 4 trees on this side are already coming out for the sewer. You come out, you be on the borderline, the easement is all over here, and then you come, and you don't have to lose all of the trees on the ridgelock side, and you can keep those, and you're more matching sewer deconstruction and greenway deconstruction. So that's my reaction from what I hear tonight that is new and different than what we've heard before. So, you know, obviously you can't completely respond to this. It's a whole new plan.
Yeah.
And God knows we want to put this to bed.
I can answer a few things that you mentioned.
Yeah, go.
So to answer your question, can trail go in sewer easement? Structures cannot, but asphalt can, okay? There is some opportunity here to do some stream bank stabilization. So some of these trees you see on the back side of the stream, these trees here, maybe these trees, and trying to make adjustments to the stream bank that's just very steep right now. We would, in order to lay back that stream bank, there would be tree loss associated with that as well. I think as you get further away from the stream with the trail on the sewer easement, you're less impacted by that. But wherever we would look at doing any kind of stream restoration, typically laying back those slopes would require tree removal. Otherwise, the stream's just going to continue to eat away at that stream bank and eventually catch up to the trail and the sewer easement.
Okay, that is helpful, and so anyway, we'll let Lindsay go. We've each had I'm sure I took more than my 2 minutes. Forgive me.
That's your rule, by the way.
Trying to make sure we keep moving.
I think this evening I was also expecting that when we looked at this third view, analyzing the Briarwood community sewer section, I thought we were going to get a little bit more analysis of what the potential was with moving the trail over there as another thing to consider, because it just feels like this. Not that one. option 2, the realignment, it just feels very forced upon us, and that feels a little odd. Like, why is this so urgent, and why has the city, the thing I can't wrap my head around also is if the city has previously told a community 2 times, we hear you, this is not what you want, and we will honor what you want. I think about the integrity of your word, and the city is breaking their word. And, you know, I really, in my own personal life, I don't like being betrayed in any aspect. And this, I don't even live right there, but it just feels like a betrayal. Like, why promise that? Why have that community engagement process 2 times before and then come back later and say, well, guess what? We're just going to do it anyway and we don't care. Like, it just, I can't wrap my head around that. It just feels very deceitful, and that's not how I want to think of the leaders and designers in our city. Like, we value listening to community and advising based upon those sorts of things. And so it just, I'm just extremely disappointed, because I feel like if someone gives you your word, I don't care who you are, if you give me your word, I expect you to keep it. And again, I don't live there. That's how I would feel. It feels like a betrayal, and I don't even live right there. And so I expect better.
Yeah, I can speak to that. And Lisa and I talked about this in 2015, we had the engagement with the community. In 2016, Matthew hit, and it was one of the worst hurricanes.
Yes.
That delayed multiple Greenway projects because we had bridges float away during those hurricanes. 2 years later, we had Florence hit. So the dynamics of how we approach Greenway design and construction changed over that time period, and also delayed this because we were fixing bridges that weren't built to our current standards that are not hurricane resistant. So you're right. We're empathetic to say, yeah, we're going to fix it in its place. But over that time period, we had 2 massive weather events that showed bridges, the way we were building them, are not resilient. And they're not up to a standard for weather resilience or safety for those people that use it across the entire city.
Are there other areas in the city with the Greenway that we are still constructing bridges?
Yes, but not to the standard that these wood standards. They are now concrete decking with steel structure. So you can also get an ambulance over them, or not a fire truck, but a police vehicle. Yeah. So that's the evolution. And also, we had a Greenway master plan that says we need these type of transportation type of infrastructure, not just small wooden bridges that are quaint. So there's some trade-offs, and I do completely agree with you. It makes me feel ill that years ago we said we're just going to repair them, but I also know for the tough decisions for the broader resilience of the Greenway, we got to make these changes for the best of the entire Greenway system.
Definitely, I totally understand that. I just feel like even in my position here as a volunteer board member, my association of it makes me feel like I am part of that deception, and like your word and your integrity is just like, it's just really important. And so I'm not insulting anyone directly in this room or anything. That's something that really bothers me. And I feel like I'm really impressed with the diversity of folks who did come out to share their perspectives this evening. I feel like we heard even more perspectives, and I don't know, that's impressive. But I also think that there's just other options, and I'm wondering, why is this just so, gotta do it? It feels, I'm uncomfortable with this.
All right, and I do want to say, though, there hasn't been any deception on the part of Ms. Schiffbauer or Mr. Bentley. No, I know you're, but I mean, the city is a different place than in 2009 than it was in 2023, and so, change does happen, and I wish that, regardless of what our decision and City Council's decision is, things change, and I think Ms. Ashcraft made a really good point of that. So anyway, let's go for Mr. Edgerton.
Yes, ma'am. I don't see how there can be a recommendation to destroy two bridges that were put over the creek without any consideration of why they were put there. We all care about dollar cost. Every dollar counts. I believe in this case we should ask, what is the true expense if we were to approve the recommended option that's been asked for? Back in 1976, we could probably ask Gail why it was put there, but she's retired. But when it was constructed, there was no requirement to put two bridges across the same creek. But they were put there so that you can watch the water from Shelley Lake, which is reliable, flow beneath where you're standing. As a matter of fact, there was an additional expense at that time to build the two bridges, but it was considered important. And such an experience of peacefulness and calm, as far as we know, may have provided the connection that was needed for many to find peace, maybe even deal with stress, or perhaps save a life. That may be a stretch, but it could have, certainly. It's a place of good feeling and comfort. In my opinion, we in today's world need to be able to find peace and solitude even more than there was in 1976. What I believe we should ask for is a staff presentation as to how the complexities of the two very needed sanitary sewer projects can be worked together with the now replacement of the aged bridges to update that trail. In short, if we optimally plan and execute, there have to be advantages in how we can construct, save cost, have access. Please, let's don't vote to destroy the beauty of this forever.
So I believe the board has already expressed through its comments, its concerns, and its ideas, everything that I have to say as well. So, and I'm a frequent user of the Greenway, and that is a very beautiful part of the Greenway. There are some concerns. You have some, the city has some, and the general public has some as well. And I hope that there can be a solution that allows everybody to be happy, but in the real world, unfortunately, that does not happen. So.
Well, I think a lot of board member has expressed our opinions, but I do have some questions. So the first one is the fence location. So in the alignment option 2, I see there is a dimension between the townhome to the edge of the Greenway is 38 feet. But actually in the perspective, there is a fence next to the Greenway, which means the real distance between the townhouse and the extent of the Greenway is narrower than 38 feet, right?
So this picture.
Yes.
So the distance I have on that map is the distance from the edge of the trail to the townhome structure.
Yes, but the actual usable space for the townhome owner is to the fence instead of to the trail Greenway.
Yes, that would be correct.
And my question is it possible to leave more space instead of, like, I know you are trying to propose a very straight line to keep the satellite open, but my question is it possible to leave more space?
So we already went through that analysis and discussed with Raleigh Water on being flexible for locating the fence. And in the very first presentation, we had the fence outside of the sewer easement closer to the townhomes. You can see now it's inside the limits of the existing sewer easement. So we were able to coordinate with Raleigh Water to allow some more space and actually minimize any kind of additional tree removal that would be associated with the project. So that fence is located approximately 1 to 3 feet inside the sewer easement. And that was something that we're continuing to work with Raleigh Water on, but that provides additional distance for the homeowners.
And another question. So I think one advantage for the option 2 compared to the option 1 is trying to provide open up the set view. So, but the alignment for the option 2, there's almost a 90-degree turning.
Yes.
So, like, is it any possible that we can make that turning like smooth it a little bit?
Yeah, so the structures don't need to go necessarily back in the same location, but it is important that because the more of a sort of skewed angle you put, the structures get longer. So it really is the best to place structures so that they are perpendicular.
I don't think that was her question. I think, were you asking about the green line being creating a 90-degree angle, not the structures?
When you don't like turns.
The southern end of option 2, that's almost a 90-degree, and I think board members wondering, can we take less curve off that to improve the sight line?
Yeah, and that was we would look at what the radius requirements would be, and that was primarily just to keep out of the buffer and stay within sewer easement.
Carol, can I?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we need to be careful on 2 points as a board, and I'm speaking to the board. Preserving the trail the way it is now, it is not going to feel anything like what it feels like right now. It will not. It is going to be clear cut. There will be trees, but it is not going to have the same feel. We are going to have to do stream restoration. We're going to have, I don't even know what's involved, but usually it involves lots of rocks, right? The tree roots provide some anchoring. Those are going to be gone. So part of the reason I made that little proposal of that little offshoot is because I do love the quaintness of it, but it doesn't work well as a greenway. It just doesn't. It doesn't. And it's very expensive. It's 3 times more expensive. And I think the other thing is, as a board, we have to be thinking about being stewards of people's tax money and of budget money. Now, I'm not a believer. Look, we take vacations and spend money on things for beauty, for views. My parents own property in the Blue Ridge Mountains that all they do is for views and to let animals live there. I love nature. I am a urbanite. I live downtown, but I love nature. So I get that. But it's not going to feel the same way, and it's really expensive. It's really expensive. I think, given the new information, just as Stephen shared, I think that it's not an either or. In other words, I don't think that if we preserve the current greenway that it's going to look great and it's going to feel the same way, nor do I think if we go back and follow Lisa's, the Sightline one, which is less expensive, that can't look great and feel great and provide and actually take care of the homeowners. I think we can do it well. I've seen our city do it well. I've seen other cities do it well. And frankly, if you go to the American Tobacco Trail, anybody ever, you guys, I'm sure, yeah, right? So what's interesting over there is some of the highest property value now are the ones that sit really close to American Tobacco Trail. They do. Houses see it, they back up to it. I think that the safety issue is something we have to be careful with as well. We can't assume that just because the greenway is running and there's a fence, that all of a sudden it's going to become unsafe. I'm saying these to the board that we need to be careful with making some of these kind of really strong recommendations, because we're looking at, the reality is we're already going to have this huge section of trees removed. If we keep the current structure, it's going to be 3 times more expensive, and it is going to be clear cut. I mean, that's just a fact. So I just want us to be thinking about those things.
Just to one of the points you said, Van, is I really think that the city needs to do a better job of doing ongoing maintenance and keeping the standard, and then it wouldn't get so expensive and it wouldn't get so out of hand. Just like when you take care of your own house and your own car,
Absolutely.
the more you neglect it,
Yep.
like these bridges, the more expensive and complicated it gets. And so, again, no disrespect.
Yeah, I would say neglect is a strong word. We have a very rigorous program.
Yeah.
It is resource-based. So we have, at one point, we had less than $1 million a year for 120 miles of greenways. And you saw one of these bridges cost $1 million. Thanks to this board, you got the penny approved, which moves the needle. So I just want to make sure to stand up for our team. It is not about neglect. It was about you have finite resources and where you can apply them on such a robust system.
And this is not the worst condition shape stretch of the Greenway, I can assure you.
Yeah.
Nor is it the only pretty part. As Mr. Fletcher indicated, I am a very vigorous user of our Greenway, and there are some incredibly beautiful parts. So regardless of what happens tonight, I encourage, and we will actually be talking about it as a board, the need for all of us to explore other parts of our park system in addition to those that we frequent, and I encourage that in the community as well. So,
Madam Chair,
yes.
What is the value of the experience of having those two bridges where they are? I realize money, yes. But I have a difficult time taking something away, which is an experience that we can't duplicate somewhere else that's accessible, so it no longer exists. We build superhighways through neighborhoods nowadays, yes, and we're building faster and faster greenways to motor your bike. But the ability to stand there over the constant running water from Shelley Lake and experience the peacefulness. And yes, the trees will not all be there, but in 1976, someone probably said, we're putting this greenway through this open field, and guess what? Trees grew. So 20 or 30 years from now, we're going to have trees back in there. I mean, we have a habit in development now of cutting down big 30-inch trees and planting back shrubs. But I think there's a value in the experience. I won't say it's priceless. That would probably be too extreme. But I think it has significant value. And over a period of 50 years or whatever we can expect, should we have respect for that as our legacy and not be known as the group who took it away? I quit.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments? Because it's my understanding that we have been asked. We are not the final word. We do not have any power over anything.
We have influence.
But we have been asked as people who were out there in January with very cold toes and have visited it many times. We have been asked to make a recommendation, and so at this point, I am. Let's see. I'm going to ask for a motion.
Are we?
Ask for a motion to approve either option 1 or option 2.
I make a motion to approve option 1.
I second option 1.
I'm sorry, option 2.
Billy seconds, sir.
I'm sorry, option 2. Yeah, option 2.
Well, if we play by Robert's rules, we have to. We don't. If the original
I retract my emotion.
You can retract your
okay.
emotion.
All right.
I'll let you. I won't. It was just too good to be true.
It was, right? It was, after all that.
All right.
I move to approve option 2.
And a second?
Can it fail without a second?
We can give it just a second here, please. Is there a second for the endorsing option 2.
I want to know what the Ridgelock residents, which option they like.
I think that's pretty clear.
I think we've heard that pretty clear. They like option 1.
Okay, they do. Okay.
Yeah, I think. Just a second. I really, if you'll let me finish my sentences a couple of times, I would appreciate it. I don't know whether the chair can second the motion, but if so, I would second the motion, and then we can have final conversation on it. Call it to a vote. So, pardon? Well, we are an advisory board, not a parliamentary board. And we are not like city council. We do not, as we said, we do not have Pardon?
Are we allowed to ask?
Not at this point. The matter is at the table here, and we've had, and so the motion is.
Can I speak to the motion?
You may speak to the motion.
So I
and
just
the
like to summarize it for the board, for your consideration. I absolutely agree and am empathetic to the Ridgelock community. The thing that I am keeping in mind is that we have safety of people, the city, the residents of the city. We have an opportunity to actually preserve more of the feel that's there by following the current easement for the sewer easement and realigning. It is a lot less expensive. I think that really needs to be given consideration. I'm uncomfortable championing something that changes the landscape right there completely, costs 3 times more, and I don't want to have my vote behind that. And I think that, remember, we are stewards of our city's resources, and honest to goodness, we have a lot of other projects that we need resources for. This is not an unlimited. We don't have a blank check. I know it's not. I know I'm not in the popular crowd right now, but I think we can't just think about. I think we have to think about Raleigh citizens. We have to think about safety. When somebody has a heart attack on the Greenway, can something get there? Can a vehicle get there?
And the answer to that is yes, if we replace the bridges, but not now.
Yes, but it's again, we're choosing if we vote to keep what's there, we are voting for the 3 times more expensive option. And frankly, it's going to make it look worse.
Well, the voters voted on a completely different, with the bond vote, they voted on a different number. Either way.
Tell me what you mean.
The voters in the bond project in 2014, they voted to replace the structures in the trail. That's what they voted for then.
But I think Stephen's point was so strong. Guys, there are visibility issues, there are safety issues, there is hurricane proofing things, and bridges are expensive. They just are.
Well, and we're going to call the question. I will say that what changed my mind on this was the number of trees that we lose in the Sewer Creek project.
Agree.
That the combination and knowing, the current path is so narrow with the safety is the size of the trees that are lifting up the asphalt that have to come down to widen the path and to make it safe. Right, and the bridges have permanent bollards in the middle, and they are slippery. They are not. It is a lovely part, but it is not a safe part. I wish there was as I've suggested, I wish there was a third alternative, because I'm not real keen on the on option 2. But after the sewer folks come in, this will not look the
It's
way
not. No, it's
it
not.
did. So,
And the safety thing is something near and dear to my heart. You know this spot. Beverly, I ran past it today where the person died taking that turn at the bottom of the hill, and I run past it all the time, and I think about that because there are people on that trail who go high speed on the bike and things like that, and I just
that's on a different part of the Crabtree Creek Greenway.
But those are the things. Those are the things that are important that we got to think about as a board. We have to.
Would you repeat the motion, please?
The motion is to recommend to City Council alignment option 2, which is realignment to the northwest side of the creek. It is the one that looks like this.
Okay.
Yes.
An amendment to the motion for 2 is to factor in what Shashin said about the sharp curve, if that could be adjusted. Thank you, Shashin.
I think that's a compatible amendment.
I'm great with that. If that even matters.
All right, any other comments, questions? Because we're going to call the question. And all in favor of the motion to recommend alignment option 2, please say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand, I guess, so we can. All opposed? I will say this has been one of the most challenging decisions we have made. Recommendations. It's not done.
No.
We don't do it lightly.
No, we do not take this lightly. You'd asked me yesterday. Oh, copy of the PowerPoint?
It'll be on the board docs.
It'll be on those boards.
Can I ask some clarification?
I came here wanting to be open-minded, and my mind made some change. And it's because I'm missing information.
Okay, I mean, yeah, Ms. Schiffbauer can answer your questions probably better than we can. It's not, I'm not, yeah, I'm not trying to be obstinate, it's just, there's not really a format for that. Okay, Equity and Strategic Initiatives Program Review. Who gets to, Andrea gets to follow that.
Oh, somebody pulled it up for me already. Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board. I am Andrea White, Equity and Strategic Initiatives Manager for Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources. It is an absolute pleasure to be here this evening to share how our department is working to put equity in action. I have held this position for a little under 2 years now. However, I have been an equity practitioner for as long as I can remember. I live equity, I breathe equity, I love equity, and I especially love doing it for this department. Before I get into the presentation this afternoon, I do have some individuals here with me this evening that I would like to bring up for them to introduce themselves. I believe that representation is important and also acknowledgement is important. So if you would please come up if you are involved in on one of the teams, or if you have been involved in any of the initiatives that will be discussed. And so that's pretty much everyone on this side of the room. Please come up and introduce yourself and your division or program area.
Hi, I am Abby Emery. I am in our training group and responsible for development of content and delivery of content. And really happy to be working with Andrea on this project.
Michael Atkinson, Planning and Development Capital Project Supervisor, and I'm happen to serve on the City of Raleigh's equity team.
Hi, I'm Megan Rolfing. I'm with Urban Forestry. I support development services and the planning, but I'm also a part of the Racial Equity and Inclusion team.
Good evening, Ainsley Worrell. I'm Health and Wellness Program Director within the Recreation Division, and I'm happy to support this work. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Christy Jones. I work on the recreation side. I manage 2 of the parks, and I'm working with the accreditation process with Andrea.
Good evening, I'm Doug Porter. I'm with Historic Resources and Museums, and I'm on the Racial Equity team and on the Capra team.
And then as the grand finale, hello everyone. My name is Lauren Kabrick. I'm a park planner with our Park Development and Communications Division. I'm part of our Gender Equity Work Group, and we're really happy to share this with you all tonight. Good job sticking it out this long in the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you all. I sincerely appreciate all of your commitment and your hard work and your dedication to this program. And I also want to take an opportunity to acknowledge Ms. Giovanna Harris, who also serves on our Racial Equity and Inclusion team as well. This evening, I will provide you with an overview of our approach to advancing equity, our process for operationalizing the work, and highlight a few equity-driven initiatives that align with the City of Raleigh's strategic plan and also our Park, Recreation, and Cultural Resources business plan. Before I jump into that, I want to start with a quote. It says, "Performance more often comes down to a cultural challenge rather than simply a technical one." The City of Raleigh's commitment to equity is about fulfilling that purpose. In order to fulfill our vision, our vision statement, bringing people to parks and parks to people, we must account for the cultural perspectives and diversity of those who we aim to serve and be committed to operating a park system that truly serves all. So this is our City of Raleigh, this is our vision statement, but this is our commitment to equity, and this is the organization's commitment. And so we make sure that our commitment to equity directly aligns with that. We understand that the goals of advancing equity today look different than in previous years, as it should. We are evolving as a department and working to advance equity with a more intentional and in-depth understanding of the impacts of race and intersectionality as it relates to this work. I want you to take an opportunity just to read the equity statement before moving on. If I was doing Equity 101, I would have the members of the board read a paragraph, but I'm going to save you that this afternoon. But just take a minute to digest those words. The City of Raleigh had an opportunity to work through our racial equity statement, working with different members of the City of Raleigh's core team to develop our racial equity action plan for the city. We also ensure that within Parks and Recreation, we align our principles and our purposes with this action plan as well, which states that Raleigh employees are prepared to carry out equity work. Raleigh is an inclusive employee of choice. Our practices are inclusive and equitable in regards to engagement, and we're facilitating inclusive planning, development, and growth to support communities of color. We're being very intentional about making sure that our work aligns with the overarching plan for our organization. How do we plan to do that? So how do we take this work from theory to practice? The City of Raleigh is a member of the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, which is also known as GARE, and we aim to follow national best practice, which is normalizing conversations around race and equity, organizing and building opportunities for collaboration, and operationalizing the work by developing tools that help outline clear objectives and performance measures for established outcomes. Over the next couple of slides, I will provide you an overview of PRCR initiatives that directly follow National Effective Best Practice Framework. So we're normalizing the conversation. One of the first initiatives that I would like to discuss was led by Mr. Ainsley Worrell, who you met this evening. And it was, in last year, offering mental health first aid to all City of Raleigh PRCR employees. This was the first time that this was made available to staff. Whenever we talk about equity, whenever we talk about advancing equity, it is important that we understand how equity impacts the individuals that we choose to serve, especially as it relates to the root causes. Right? Our goal is to reduce trauma and have spaces that do not induce trauma. We worked a couple of years ago, beginning in 2020, and 2020 was a very interesting time, right, for a lot of us, on building resilience principles within our organization. And what I can tell you is that Ainsley has continued that effort from 2020. I believe he got a lot of park and recreation professionals through the pandemic with his motivational Mondays that he would send out. And so this was something that the DEI and REI group was able to jump on board with. And by leading this initiative, we also offered mental health and first aid, diversity and equity trainings to all of the members of the racial equity and inclusion team as well. We are facilitating equity engagements. This is continuous conversation, ongoing conversation about equity and what it looks like. Michael Atkinson, who you met this evening, spearheaded our third annual equity town hall that was held at John Chavis. That event was entitled, Looking Inward, Connecting Mental Health, Emotional Intelligence, and Equity in the Workplace, right? Again, that mental health framework, understanding how important mental health, psychological safety, and personal well-being is right now, and especially as we're leading this work. We're facilitating opportunities for our work groups to come together and work collaboratively. In April, I held our first joint workshop between the Racial Equity and Inclusion team and our Gender Identity team, where we focused on building strengths, right? It takes strength to lead this work. So they each had an opportunity to complete the self-assessment, Strength Finder self-assessment, where we looked at our top 5 strengths. How do we build this? Mr. Mickey Fern calls this rehearsal for the journey. If you know him, he's been an equity practitioner for over 30 plus years, and so he was very proud to see this happening within our department. We are also having conversations around empathy. Empathy is a fundamental principle we are working to embed in our leadership. We're striving to build an environment that is responsive to the needs of our employees, so in turn, our employees can be responsive to the needs of those in the community. The last picture is a workshop that was held for our leadership team that was led by Dr. Hamilton and Travis McCullum from the Department of Equity and Inclusion. We're organizing our teams. So you have had an opportunity to meet a few of the members from our racial equity and inclusion team and our gender identity work group, right? And so this is not just a resume builder, not just something for folks to say that they're really doing some work. We're making sure that this work aligns with the core functions that have been outlined for members that serve on the City of Raleigh's core team, right? So there are staff from each of the departments and offices that also adhere to these functions. One of the main things that we want to make sure is that we're building allies and we're building individuals that are comfortable championing this work throughout our organization. So how do we get the work done? We're talking about now operationalizing the work. I want to be truthful and very honest in this moment, right? Equity it can be a buzzword, right? Can we all agree? It can be a buzzword. It reminds me of when I took my niece to Crabtree Mall and I bought her this wand, and for the next 3 days she walked around saying, magic, magic. And so I was like, I wonder if I could take this wand to work and say, equitable, equitable. It doesn't work that way. We actually have to put tools and resources and ideologies in place to carry out this work. We're building our frameworks internally. One of the things that the Racial Equity and Inclusion team has done is we've taken concepts from a gap analysis and also from the racial equity tool that was developed by GARE. We have fused them together to create our own gap analysis with an equity lens review. The goal is to have this lens implemented across all of our divisions within the department in hopes of building our internal equity action plan. The Gender Identity Group has done a lot of work. This group was established in the summer of 2022. We are a department that serves a vast variety of people, mainly our youth. And this initiative really sprung out of Summer Camp 22, and we wanted to go into Summer Camp 23 with a better plan in place for how we respond to individuals that choose to self-identify. This work group started by establishing some guiding principles, working on our stakeholder engagement process. We wanted to identify warranted actions and considerations to make recommendations in regards to process development. We wanted to make sure that we were able to adequately train our staff, continue to train our staff. In April, we were actually able to bring in an organization that is very dedicated to providing gender equity training for youth groups, Gender Spectrum, and so which they provided training to our full-time staff within the department. And we are also drafting and advising new policy. So I want to talk about some PRCR initiatives that are currently happening, and especially those that directly relate to the City of Raleigh strategic plan and also our PRCR business plan. When we talk about equity, equity is about access to information, is about access to resources and opportunities. We have a lot of opportunity within our department. We have a lot of initiatives going on within our department. So one thing that we wanted to do is to make sure that staff had access to those opportunities, and if they chose to have an opportunity to be a part of it. We were able to work with our training and development team and create a Charting Our Course, which was an introduction to the CAPRA process, which we are pursuing, our PRCR system plan, and our business plan. And I tell you, this was the first time that some staff had actually seen this information, right? And so not only do they have an opportunity to see it, but they also have an opportunity to be involved in the initiatives. And TJ and Lauren would be very pleased if you jump on board and get involved with the system plan as we're currently having that updated. Our PRCR internship program supports Organizational Excellence Initiative 3.2. We had an internship program currently in the department, but we took a look at that program and said, is it an equitable program? Not meaning in racial diversity or gender diversity, but does it provide the students an opportunity to really learn about what's happening within parks and recreation? The interns that came in were mainly summer interns, and they mainly assisted with summer camps. right? Now, I say if you can do summer camp, you can pretty much survive anything in Parks and Recreation, right? But we wanted to give our students an opportunity to learn more about our department. I'm going to be transparent in this moment as well. Last year was our first iteration of the program. It lacked racial diversity. Right? We were able to work with Ryan Reba, who was our internship coordinator. He's not here this afternoon, but I definitely wanted to highlight the work that he has done. Myself, Michael, and Ryan sat down and we talked about a recruitment strategy. And I'm pleased to say that now 40% of our internship cohort this summer is from historically black colleges and universities. And this is a photo of the new cohort here. Our PRCR Parks Mentorship Program. So we actually had to start and actually develop this program. So members of the Racial Equity and Inclusion team worked alongside Learning and Development. Again, we do a lot of work with training and development. So shout out to Abby and Helene and their team for being so committed to this process. The Parks Mentorship Program stands for Professionalism, Achievement, Relationships, Knowledge, and Skills. This was an opportunity for staff to connect. The one thing that we wanted to, the narrative that we wanted to set with this program is that leadership is not defined by a title. It's not defined by a title. It is defined by your commitment to excellence, right? Your relationships, and your confidence within the department. And so that's what this program promotes. We will have our second cohort hopefully this fall and continue with this program in supporting the City of Raleigh's strategic plan. The Street Tree Equity Project is probably one of my favorite projects. I've learned so much working with urban forestry. Megan and Chris Kroom, this initiative basically was to, they had interest, they took interest. Which I believe, you know, I leads equity, right? You have some interest, some investigation, and some intentionality. And so they asked, are street trees equitable across the city of Raleigh? Very simply, no. Where do we lack street trees? Southeast Raleigh, right? And so we have an initiative within the department where we're planting 1,000 street trees in Southeast Raleigh. The one thing that I want to highlight about this program is that it's over a 3-year period. Right? And so when we talk about equitable community engagement in Parks and Recreation, we have so much opportunity to leverage our internal resources. So that's exactly what we're doing, right? So over the next 2 years, not only are we going to be planting trees in Southeast Raleigh, but we're going to be updating our website to have self-directed programming on our website to educate individuals in that community about the importance of tree canopies and heat islands. Right? We're going to do some workshops in the fall. I just learned that we have to do it in the late winter, spring, because that's when you can talk about pruning, right? So there's a method to this thing, right? So I told you I'm learning a lot about urban forestry. So thankful for the urban forestry team. But we're going to offer workshops because this is a way of educating the community, right? So that communication should be a two-way pattern. But we're also working with our neighborhood ecology corps. So whenever we think about urban forestry and we really think about making a major impact, we know that this is a field that lacks racial diversity. We have an opportunity to change that. So over the next 2 years, we will be working with the Neighborhood Ecology Corps program to develop a workforce development program. And that is what continuous, equitable community engagement looks like. I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to work with this group. So where do we go from here? Right, we're doing a lot, but we want to continue to do more. So we want to highlight our 23, 24 initiatives. We're going to work on prioritizing a budget for these initiatives. We know that equity costs money, but there's also a cost to inequity. We want to be able to implement the equity tools, some of which I highlighted earlier in the presentation. Continue to support the system plan and its update and making sure that we carry or hold an equitable lens over that process. It's so important. Talk about employee engagement. So we're going to continue to have those engagement opportunities for staff. looking at how do we continue to talk about not only our internal community engagement and ensuring that that's equitable, how do we extend these opportunities over to our general public? We're having conversations about things that directly impact our community, and it is not our goal to always make decisions for, but we want to make decisions with or alongside of. We're going to continue to support the City of Raleigh initiatives, which is recruitment, our mentorship, and our internship programs. I started this presentation with a quote, and I would like to end with one as well, and these are my very own words. When you go through a negative experiences, however, do not become tarnished, but emerge even more polished. It is then when you have realized your true purpose. Leading this work is my true purpose. I would like to thank the board for your attention this evening. I would like to thank the members of the Racial Equity and Inclusion team and the gender teams for your continued commitment to this work. And I would like to thank our Department Director, Stephen, for your vision, not only seeing how important this work is to our department, but for seeing me and allowing me to lead this work. And thank you.
Board member
questions? I will.
Andrea, great job. I think you probably already stated it, but do you guys have like a DEI or REI program for the youth within Southeast Raleigh? Kind of like train and educate them, like the kids within that community?
No.
On that? No? Okay. Okay. I'll talk to you about
okay.
that.
I do have something for the board before you got some plants, and Neil came out, and I'm real extra. I'm extra, and so I actually have something for the board this afternoon that I want to leave you with. I talked about in the presentation that the interest, the investigation, and the intentionality. The I will lead equity. I have some gifts for you all. These are exclusives, okay? I will give them to Giovanna, and she will share. Again, thank you so much for your commitment to our department, and I hope you like your little bags.
Oh, that's very cool. And before you go away, I have a couple of comments and questions. One, I'm not on much social media, but I do follow Instagram so I can see my grandchildren. But I have found a really, really powerful person influencer, I guess that's what the word is. Racial Equity Insights. I don't know whether you're familiar with it, but I was scrolling through my photos when I was looking at my phone, where I'd done a screenshot of something he said recently because I knew you were going to be speaking. I can't find it. Okay. There's too many pictures at parks, to be honest. But anyway, if you're on Instagram, I highly recommend that you follow this gentleman. He really it's called the Instagram site is Racial Equity Insights, and he really talks about the importance of not talking about equity, but how important our actions are, and that that's our mothers and fathers taught us that at early ages, that your actions speak louder than your words. But I think in this particular instance, I do have one question related to internships, and when in a prior year when we've gotten reports on the Youth Conservation Corps, I have noticed that they have not been as diverse as they might be, and so I was wondering if you could address whether or not we're taking steps to increase that diversity.
Short answer, yes.
Okay.
Our Natural Resource Division are working on increasing equity in all aspects of their programming. They are being very intentional about that work. The teams from the superintendent to their managers in constant conversation. One of the things that we talk about is, there's always a need, or there may be a need, but how we achieve the overarching goal is another thing. And so it's about the collaboration and the effort. And, they've, even though it may not necessarily look the way that you want it to look at the beginning, it takes hard work and an ongoing process, and they are are
not going to be
working.
automatic.
Absolutely. But they are being very intentional about recognizing and inquiring about why and taking those next steps.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for board members?
Thank you. I have a long history with this department. I've noticed and observed for a long time, and it's just heartwarming to hear about this intentionality. It was great.
Thank you.
I just wanted to give you praise for how proactive and aspirational and even visionary I see your leadership, and how impressive and inspiring that is. And thank you for everything that all of you are doing. It's really nice to hear. Thank you.
I would add, Andrea and the team are not just leading in our department. They're really leading throughout the city. Our DEI director has shared the work that they do is pushing other departments to elevate their thinking. We created as a department the gender equity work group. Like, it wasn't being discussed, gender issues in the city. So kudos to Andrea to say we need to be in this space and normalizing conversations about it. So
I don't doubt that.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. You had to sit through a lot tonight. And we appreciate that you were here to support Andrea as she presented the work that you're all doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And do we... well, we're pretty moving along pretty fast, so let's just keep going. Raleigh Park System Plan project update.
Good evening, everybody. Just a moment while I pull up the presentation. All right. Being mindful of our time, I will try to keep this brief, probably breeze over some of the finer points, but if you have any questions after the presentation, happy to dig into any details you'd like. We are going to be kicking off this summer an update to our system plan. You heard Andrea plug it quite a few times. I appreciate the teaser in that presentation. I just want to give you all a quick reminder of the scope of work that we're looking at with the system plan update, and share a project timeline so you know what to expect over the next year. As a reminder, our system plan, right, is our long-range planning document that sets a 20-year vision for the future shape of our park system. Our current system plan was adopted in 2014, so we're right on schedule for a 10-year update. We look to conclude this project next spring. And as Andrea mentioned, this is going to be an equity-focused update to the system plan. I will note, too, it's not a comprehensive revision. It is just an interim update, so we aren't going to be changing every single aspect, but we certainly do want to bring it up to currency. This wall of text right here is a statement from the National Recreation and Parks Association. It echoes a lot of the principles that Andrea highlighted, but I do want to focus in on just a few key phrases here. First of all, a system plan is an opportunity to help us understand the history and current barriers to park access so we know how to do a better job in the future. That's what this project is going to give us a chance to do. We know it is essential that community engagement, equity, and inclusion are at the foundation of this plan and this process that we're going to engage in over the next year. It's going to give us an opportunity to make sure when we talk about equity and justice, what we mean by that, right? We want to make sure that everyone shares in the just and fair quantity, proximity, and connections to high-quality parks and green spaces all throughout the city, so that ultimately we're developing a park system that is safe, inclusive, culturally relevant, and welcoming to everyone in Raleigh. So, the scope of work for the system plan, we break down here. I'll just, again, move through these relatively quickly. First of all, though, is a look at equity in the park system. This is going to, again, echo and parallel a lot of what Andrea just talked about, looking at all of our policies throughout the Parks Department through that equity lens. As part of the project, we're going to look at a recreation program plan and fee study. So this is going to give us an opportunity to look at the city's cost recovery goals, revisit our user fee policy around recreation program delivery and the costs of providing those programs, as well as where we might have gaps in the programs that we provide today relative to community expectations that may have changed, and that certainly have changed, in the decades since the system plan was adopted. It's going to give us an opportunity to dig into our level of service and prioritization metrics we use. We take a look with you all quite often at those park access level of service maps, the equity criteria that we use to prioritize projects, whether it's for bond or CIP or program delivery. This system plan update is going to give us a chance to finalize and formalize all of those database decision-making processes that we have. And finally, as part of the update, we're going to be putting together an implementation plan and progress report. In the system plan today, if you look, we have around 300 action items that we laid out back in 2014. So we're going to put together a progress report to see, okay, how have we done? What action items have we accomplished on time? Where are we on track for those goals that were long-range goals, and where do we need to switch things up to get back on track, or maybe revisit goals and initiatives that were relevant back in 2014, but again, a lot has changed since then, and this gives us a chance to update some of those priorities. This slide here gives you a general overview of the timeline for this project. So we are here today, mid-June. Most of the work that we've done so far with our consultants on this plan has been kind of background research, preparing for the public-facing portion of the project, which we look to kick off this summer. A lot of data inventory, and again, we are accelerating that user fee policy portion of the project. Our goal there is to complete that by this October in time for budgeting for the next fiscal year. So that user fee policy portion has been accelerated, prioritized, and the rest of the project carrying on from there. And finally, this timeline. I understand it's a very busy slide, a lot going on here. I do want to call your attention. We are here right now. You're receiving a staff update here in June. Our plan is to come back to you every month with an update on this project. The project share moments every other month are going to be kind of our deeper dives that we do with you, progress report, next steps, and get feedback from you all on what we're presenting each time. But I'll also be here in those interim months to make sure, again, we're keeping you up to date on everything that we've been doing. I'll stop myself there and open the floor to any questions you might have.
Questions, the board members? I have one, of course. But when you mention the number 4, the implementation plan update and progress report, is that something, since this was created in 2014, and you say you're going to be looking to see where you are, have we done that in the past?
We have done that as an internal process. This will be the first time that we've really taken the kind of the results back out to the public. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And I told TJ we can't have 300 objectives anymore. It's a little bit overkill. So we'll bring more manageable, intentionally focused, so we can track. Tracking 300 items is a lot.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of this update, one of my big goals here is to think about things in terms of transparency, right? Both with the public and with our staff. Frankly, it's pretty hard to understand exactly what our priorities are today if you were to open up this system plan. And that's something that once we get through with this update, whether you are a citizen or an assistant director, you're going to be able to look at this document and understand what the goals and priorities are for this department.
That's great. Anybody else have any other questions? Well, we'll be probably formulating them on a every other month basis then. Right. So thank you for the getting that process started for us.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Speaking of work plan, so Marcia, since you were on the work plan development committee, can you give us an update on that? But
Jeff and Chris and I met and discussed the proposed work plan and made a few changes and additions, and you've probably looked at those. We wanted to start out with the mission of our board, so that not only do we understand what the mission of the board is, so we're on board with what we've committed to do as board members, but also to any other entity, city council or whatever that reads this report, they have a sense of the scope of the mission. So it seems to me it's a pretty detailed and extensive work plan. We've added a lot. Each committee has contributed some thoughts, and Jeff did a great job. I didn't put this together. Jeff did a great job. And Stephen met with us and contributed his thoughts as well. I wonder if there's anybody that has questions about this or has additions that they would like to add. I am aware if there's a...
Well, I actually emailed to everybody just a brief addition that had come up in the Greenway Committee. And, of course, I emailed it at, 2:30, 3 o'clock this afternoon, and Giovanna already has it in the document that you have before you. So while I was prepared to suggest that we add it, we don't have to. It's already in there. But I do want to share two things because it actually ties into the urban trees and the equity thing. Because and it ties into Mine Creek because a lot is happening on our greenways with public utilities. There's an alignment, and so these construction projects, and that was one of the things in thinking about this that occurred to me is the reason why, as I pointed out in the Mine Creek discussion, they originally thought that was going to open up, and so they make plans along with that in mind. But also, I added something to the trees about public utilities because to work with urban forestry to assure that public utilities projects provide for the restoration of tree canopy in areas cleared for utility work and to create environments also where invasive species don't thrive. Because what happens when we clear an area as is cleared down at Walnut Creek along Rock Quarry Road, it is just wide open, and the first things that come in are not all the good, healthy things that we want to be there, but the invasive species. And so we need to be really intentional about our work with public utilities. So that was how that got added. Otherwise.
And the SWAT committee has one item to add. I believe that was under goal 3. And I think it goes from A to F currently. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, so this would be item G. And it would be
Goal 3 or goal 4?
It's under goal 3.
Goal 3 goes to D.
Goal 3 only goes to D. It doesn't go to F. Sustainability goes to F.
That would be it.
Okay, great.
And the item is collaborate with other organizations to support wildlife habitat as the city grows. That's it.
Could you say that again?
Yes, collaborate with other organizations to support wildlife habitat as the city grows.
Okay.
Period. First,
I think we could leave off the "as the city grows" because that's a given.
That's true. I agree.
But I think it's
I agree.
More specific if we just say collaborate with other organizations to support wildlife habitat.
Yes.
So you're good with that? All right, good. So that any other changes or suggestions?
Carol, was it too difficult to put natural resources after that?
Well, that's a good question because thank you for bringing that up, Bob. I would like to know whether people think that natural resources is already covered in the work plan or if it does need to be specifically added.
I thought of that because of the consolidation that's taken place with the natural resources being added into parks, that it might be an opportune time with that change to just include the words natural resources along with that sentence, that we would have it in print somewhere.
Yeah, I think if you said natural resource, it would be implied wildlife habitat, streams, and so if you want to broaden it, yeah.
Okay,
it's
now do you think that should be a separate item, or do you think it should be added to the
I'm open to whatever the.
Okay.
So it makes sense. I think what Stephen just said is collaborate with other organizations to support natural resources, including for e.g.
Yeah.
wildlife habitat.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Done.
all right. Yeah. All right. Good. And I want to give a special shout out to Giovanna. I mean, I will present this to the city council, and I am confident that we will have the best looking work plan. Although the rest of them might have a lot of verbiage, but we will not only have verbiage, but pretty pictures to go with it.
Yep.
And it really looks pretty.
Beverly, if I can, just for fun, I tried to print this fantastic photo out. I couldn't do it.
I think Giovanna can do that. She is a better printer than any of us. So, but really kudos to her for synthesizing and working on all the information so quickly. So, did we have minutes in our board? I don't think so.
No,
we're going to skip
find
that.
any.
Oh, we have to approve this in order to go to council. Thank you, Giovanna. So, may I have a motion to approve the annual work plan? Seconded and all that.
I
good stuff.
second.
All in favor, say
Aye.
Well, it's very different from the master plans that we've had before, and I really, really hope that everybody will read it and find things that capture your interest so that we can make it happen. Because if you all aren't there interested in and showing up for the meetings that address these issues, then they don't get addressed. And so I think there was also a lot of work to have this aligned with staff work plans, and I know on the Greenway we took it straight from what
The
staff.
city strategic plan and business plan, so it really does, I believe, manifest what we hear from the council and the community. So there's a lot of great alignment.
Great. All right. Committee reports. Parks Committee, we're not going to have anything.
Director's report.
Oh, sorry.
I'll keep it really, really short, maybe like 10 items. First, happy Pride Month. And this weekend, please go out and enjoy some of our Juneteenth celebrations. Go over to Chavis tomorrow and have lunch, because I plan on it. City's budget was approved. Moving on, we actually, if you all would go on our publicinput.com website, we are looking for people to participate in Kyle Drive Master Plan and the Neuse River Master Plan. Yes.
Is this people on the board to collaborate, or people?
So you had
in
the
community?
opportunity to sign up. We are now looking for citizens outside of the board to help develop those master plans. Yep. And we've gotten a lot of good interest, but we would appreciate any of your support. Charles Craig has made two really important hires, two superintendents, so people that report to him. One is Deshae Blake, goes by Shay, and then one is Michael DeGrossa. If you haven't been by Lenore Street Park, it looks completely different, so please drive by Lenore Street Park. Yes.
Which
Yes. Lenore Street, it's a little pocket park, and there's some pictures in here on some of the great renovations. A really cool birding program that our natural resource team partnered with Outdoor Afro for Black Birders on a workshop at the end of May. We heard about our neighborhood ecology corps. They went camping up at Durant. A ton of programs going on. We have a really great partnership with NC State for Theater Fest, which is currently underway, June 1st through the 18th. And the council approved a $10,000 donation to the 50th anniversary of hip hop celebration, which is being conducted by the Friends of City Museum. It has gotten so big that it is now going to be a couple of city blocks large, and Raleigh Magazine identified it as the #1 thing you got to go to this summer. So, and the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So we're going to have a celebration. Yes. Yep. And then some just really kudos to our team. All of our pools are open. Memorial Day weekend, although it rained all weekend, we were fully staffed and they were open. So I can't say enough about our recreation and our aquatics maintenance team. Really cool trainings. We had a virtual Narcan training for our staff. Roberts Park hosted, you could get free over-the-counter drugs, and we had 650 people sign up and attend and get free packages for over-the-counter drugs, which is really amazing. And then 2 weeks ago at Barwell Road, we had the food bank of Eastern and Central North Carolina, and we gave away 18 pallets of fresh vegetables, fruits and vegetables. So, yeah, can't say enough about the staff, what they've done this spring. So,
that is fantastic. Thank you very much. And related to that community engagement process, Javonna, I'll forget if I wait to the end, but I thought I signed up for Lake Wheeler Road, Play Plaza, and the Dix Park Ops building. So you can put.
And I was a little late coming on board. Would I be eligible to sign up too?
Yeah.
Excellent.
The Lake Wheeler, the.
Or I sent her an email back.
They're pretty much done.
Yeah, they don't have involvement.
Oh, okay. Well,
The ones that are grayed out, you
oh, I did not see that reply. Thank you. My bad. So that's why they're grayed.
We'll get Mr. Johnson that list.
Okay.
It's over there.
He's got it.
Okay. Very good.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so Fred Fletcher, we're done with. We said
Oh,
our
I see.
kudos at the last meeting to thank you for your leadership and to kudo to all of the people who attended and the awardees. That was really fabulous. Greenway Committee. We met on Monday. We went over all of the work plan items. And actually, something that I think would be wonderful for all the committees to do is what Shasheen did, and that is she shared with the entire board the BRT presentation that we had and the meeting minutes. So I think it's helpful whether you're on a committee or not so that we can be all working from the same information base. So I hope that can be communicated. But we really did, we spent 45 minutes talking about the public comment issues related to closure of the Greenways in Walnut Creek and the tree removal. So that was a big thing. The other big thing that we're talking about in the Greenway Committee is an event unlike anything that the PRGAB has ever done before, and that is the Crabtree West extension that goes out to Umstead Park is going to be in October. And while the city is very good at doing ribbon cuttings and having the elected officials there to give their remarks, we want something that is community-wide, that has people maybe riding their bike from Umstead to the Neuse River or exploring a little part of the trail. And so we're looking for people who like to plan events to be involved in creating a celebration. So we will be talking about that at our July 10th Greenways Committee meeting, 4 o'clock on a Monday. I encourage you to come and help. We're Jared Haber of Oaks and Spokes is interested, and I'm reaching out to Chris Hegarty of
Joslyn Gardens, City of
Joslyn
Oaks.
Gardens, City of Oaks. And so because we want, but there are all kinds, whether it's T-shirts or having different stations along the way about different parks things. City does a really great Earth Day event at Dix Park, and we want to take some of those ideas and spread it out over the miles of trail. So stay tuned for that and help out. So that's the Greenway Committee update. And then sustainability.
Yes, well, we had a very informative meeting with a representative from the town of Cary, who
More. Good. Thank you.
So the Sears, I can't pronounce her name, Ms. Guilford, I don't know how to pronounce her first name. Anyway, she talked about the food recycling program that the town of Cary has, and their food recycling station, and the compost that the town of Cary receives by being involved with this, and it's a staffed facility, but this is an idea that has come to the Sustainability Committee, and as Charles Craig had pointed out, it will have to come from solid waste. We'll have to initiate, but this community representatives that have approached our committee have proposed that it be in a park. That doesn't necessarily mean it will be, but it was, the inquiry made it kind of land on our plate for us to give some attention. So we had quite an informative session about that issue. So that's
May I interject one thing?
please, yeah.
In regard, it made me think about JC the closing of JC at July 1st. Please help me with this, but I believe that in Cary they had a specific site, and it's fenced off, and it has electronic admission, and you have to be given a code to punch to get in. And I thought, wow, that's what if we could have anything we wanted from Cinderella's fairy godmother, we could have one of those in Raleigh, with a fence and a code and everything.
And 2 paid employees.
And 2 paid employees.
Make sure people follow the rules.
The dollar signs
I'm
flashed.
pretty confident the council approved in the solid waste service a budgeted amount to look at composting across the city as one of their next initiatives. So they did the yard waste.
Composting?
Yes, citywide. That's why Charles it's really with solid waste. They would provide the leadership, and if the program looks like there's satellites, obviously we have geography in the city, but we're really allowing them to develop the policy and the strategy because they are the experts. So, yeah.
Beverly, can I ask Stephen, I realize it's a solid waste thing, but as far as parks, with the natural resources being brought in to the department and having horticultural services, wouldn't there be an opportunity to use the composted material very readily within this department?
Yes,
if they're making it a thing of interest.
Yes, because we currently use their the wood mulch. Yes, so there'll be some relationships there. Absolutely.
So that's the highlights of our committee. We did have a teenager who was curious about the sustainability, wildlife, and urban trees. She said that was all the stuff she was interested in. She's a 14-year-old, and her mother brought her, and she was here tonight in the audience. So,
oh gosh,
she's very.
She can't drive, so her mother brought her.
So anyway, that was just really heartwarming to see a young woman so enthused.
Awesome. Next, Arts Commission and Public Art. Chris emailed that he could not be, and so we won't get a report from them. But Bob was at the BPAC meeting in.
Yes, I think they had their retreat meeting over at the Flower Cottage and had some of the same conversations we had here about allowable different types of meetings. They had interest in going to hybrid, and they were told that that wasn't an option, kind of like we were. I think that Barbara Godwin and Giovanna, you go to a group meeting with liaisons, so you're hearing a lot of this, and they were very interested in exploring options where I think they actually have a member who cannot attend their meeting, and that's a special interest. So trying to arrive at some solution of how we can be inclusive of everyone, no matter how they can travel or not. There was discussion about bike share coming back, and it should be, back
It
in
is
the
back.
area.
I have ridden it.
Does your token work?
Yes, my token now works.
Okay, and also, they spent a lot of time working on their work plan for the coming year. And I know you may have started there, but ours is really super now. And they moved their monthly meeting to the 27th because it would have been this coming Juneteenth. And that would be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Historic Cemeteries Commission. Are we going to hear from Mr. Craig?
Always dress sharp. Always dress sharp.
He is the dapper gentleman.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, good evening. It's so great to be back. I want to say thank you because last week you was able to interact with one of our amazing supervisors, which her name is Rebecca Owens. She was here and she did a phenomenal job. So I say thank you for accepting her and being very, very welcoming to her report. She spoke very highly of it and was very excited about doing it. So I'm like, hey, you can do it again if you want,
She had to sit here a long time.
It's like, yeah, we can sign you up. But anyway, it feels great to be back. I do want to say thank you and just take a moment of privilege to say thank you for all the well wishes. I am a father the second time around. So thank you so much for all the Big Papa. So thank you so much. Let me quickly share a report with you. One thing I want you to remember with the Cemetery Advisory Board, there's two committees. The committee's name's Outreach and Education. One of the things that was on the work plan for the Historic Cemetery Advisory Board for this current year, and it's about to end, was creating an opportunity to engage and participate in different events around the city. And in order to do that, we needed to create material. You can be there, you can have a table, but what you're gonna say? And as we work on the work plan for now, we're gonna be creating marketing materials, educating the public, a part of our education committee, and then the outreach committee is gonna be working on how can we participate in different events. So we're proud to say we have our first event, which will be our Juneteenth celebration at the Pope House on June 17th. We'll be there setting up around 9 a.m. And we'll be able to pass out information about about historic cemeteries and just continue to educate the public about the great work that we're doing and shine a little bit of light on what we're doing and maybe get more participation. That's the goal of the education and the outreach committee. So I'm very proud of that. That's a big win for our team to be able to engage and get out into the community. With that being said, our next meeting will be July 27th. At 5:30 p.m. and it will be at the Tucker House. I would like to invite all of you to come if you would like. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
No, thank you though very much. And, you know, when my children were coming along, the Delaney sisters, and having our say, that was on Broadway and in the Memorial Auditorium, and they're buried at Mount Hope Cemetery. And so I assume you've referenced that in your material, and that's very exciting.
Thank you.
Please go home and go to sleep now.
I'm actually sleepwalking. I don't even know. Am I really here? I don't know. Okay, thank you.
All right. The Dix Leadership Committee, I was out of town, and Chris went to that, and he's not here tonight. Anything?
No, it was a pretty light meeting. Yep. We have it Tuesday. We have another one on Tuesday.
Yes. Historic Resources and Museum Advisory Board.
Yeah, that I attended, and it was a very short meeting. It was Esther Hall's last meeting to serve as chair, and a new person whose name I don't remember will be stepping into that role. What's her name, Troy?
Audrey Morgan.
Thank you. I think one of the things that was sort of stayed with me from that meeting is the historic properties group wanted to to introduce the work that they're doing to a larger segment of people that serve on boards and commissions by hosting a party. And they sent invitations to everybody that serves on a board and commission. I didn't get one. I didn't get the invitation.
What kind of party is this, and when is it?
It is next Thursday, I think.
Yeah, or when, I got an email about it.
Is it Wednesday or Thursday? It's next week, but it's an RSVP party, and it's going to be held at the Borden Building. But they're kind of surprised that they've had so few response.
The 28th at 5:30.
Yeah.
Raleigh Historic Resources. I did get the email and put it on my calendar.
Yeah, I didn't get it either, but they thought that it probably got lost because it was sent electronically, that maybe that it was somehow, I didn't get one, and anyway.
Oh, sometimes those are.
So anyway,
they look
yes.
junky sometimes.
So anyway, they're very disappointed that there weren't more RSVPs. But it is at the Borden Building, so they got a nice venue, but they really want people to know more about what they're doing. So, Troy, I don't know. If you want to say anything else about that.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I'll need any help or not. But I can certainly speak a bit to the program. It was a COVID casualty. Hello, I'm Troy Burton. I manage historic resources and museums, and I'm currently the acting resources division head. And we are hosting a mixer for boards and commissions. It's not just city boards and commissions. It's also boards and commissions throughout the Wake County writ large that support preservation, historic resources, arts, basically the cultural resources ecosphere in our area. And so hopefully everyone got invitations. I know right now the RSVP list is a little over 100, and so we're actually worried we're going to put a tent outside now. So maybe circumstances have changed from the meeting earlier this June. I think there were some confusion about all the invitations went out electronically, and so some people maybe didn't respond to that.
And Eventbrite does sometimes. I mean, they send me emails that are just advertising Eventbrite, and so so some people might not have clicked on it.
So if you didn't get the invitation, we apologize, but we're hoping it's a nice event. And it is Wednesday week, June 28th at 5:30 p.m. at the Borden Building in Fletcher Park, and we hope the weather will cooperate.
Great, thank you for
Sure.
the update. And I put it on my calendar. I'm not sure whether I RSVP'd or not. I know about it. Very good.
So what should I look for in my inbox?
Eventbrite.
It would have been an Eventbrite invitation, and it's probably maybe as much as a month old now. But I know they sent a couple of follow-ups as well. And they, as like you, similarly, we have committees, and this is our community engagement committee that's responsible for putting this program together.
One of the difficulties I have with Eventbrite things is I start getting emails from them.
Yes.
At the same time, and that can get all in there.
Sure.
Title is Raleigh Heritage Ecosystem Networking Event. Raleigh Heritage Ecosystem Networking Event.
Say that twice backwards, right?
Thank you, Troy.
Sure, thank you.
All right. So, chair comments. So, it's been a long night, and we've had a lot to deal with tonight. But on the list, and we will probably send this out electronically as well. There is a list of all of the parks. Now, 2 weeks ago, I had all 3 grandchildren by myself, and we went to Fletcher Park, to the fabulous Ever After program that was there. We went to Chavis Park and did the splash pad, and we went to Pullen Park, and all the rides were open, and we rode the boats, the carousel twice, and the train twice.
Awesome, Grandma. That's awesome.
So I thought, well, gee, what are the 3 parks I am most likely to go to? Chavis, Fletcher, and Pullen. I need to expand my horizons. And I thought we are probably all guilty of that we go to one park or another, and we know about that. And so I think it's important, if we're going to comment and improve the entire system, that we be knowledgeable about that. So my challenge for you all is the report card will be in September, so you have some time, but to visit other parks. And I will even send you, one of the things we're doing in the Greenway Committee is looking at how to improve our adopt-a-park and looking at some of the criteria. I don't know maybe I left it on the kitchen counter, but of like, what do you see there? What is everything good? Is everything clean? And all of those kinds of things. So I'll send you just 3 or 4 things to look at, so that you can be looking with an open eyes of A, what are the facilities like, and then B, what are the programs? And maybe you need to tell other people that there's this really cool pool at Buffalo Road Park or something like that. So just to be more knowledgeable. So Giovanna, of course, created an amazing spreadsheet that not only lists all the parks, but whether there's a greenway associated with it, whether it is aquatic or whatever, and what district it's in. So I encourage people who live in one district to visit parks in a different locale. So that will be coming out to you as an email, and obviously then I can capture the entire board. But, I like little projects, and that's my homework assignment for the next 60 days is to investigate 2 or 3 other parks so that we can share that information.
May I ask for help? I have an underlying worry. I was invited to something, or there's an event happening at Walnut Creek, and I can't come up with what it was or what the days were. It may have gone by, but I didn't want to let it slip by because I want to go there when they're having events.
What's your email?
I've checked everywhere, But,
So
if you find out, please
all
just
right.
let me know.
So we will. I will get that so we can. You've signed up for community engagement. Now you're signing up for park visits, and you will be graded. And there might be a prize.
My little one and I recently visited Horseshoe Nature Preserve.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
We
Because
explored-
that's out of ways and it's different and
It's totally out of our orbit, but we enjoyed ourselves out there and
That-
read all about it and
That's-
did lots of exploring different directions, even though my feet were really hurting afterwards.
Yeah.
He could have kept going, but
Shoes.
I wear very expensive shoes now.
that are comfortable. Very good. That is great to hear. Other comments, questions, board members? Welcome back from your travels to Japan. Typically, huh? Oh, welcome. Yes. We do have a new member. Yeah, Doug Johnston, who I've known since first grade. Not our own first grades, but our children's.
Okay. I was going to say, that is some history.
I don't think I know anybody from our real first grade. And then the other thing is we will meet in July, but we do not typically meet in August, and so plan to clear your calendar for that third Thursday in August. And with that,
everyone received the new roster of all the members with the email addresses and everything. Also, in different spots on the table, there are committee lists. Check your committee. Check to see if you are on a specific committee. If you want to be added to a committee.
oh, you mean the engagement committees? No. Oh, this committee looks like this one.
And also, the park committee, we need members to sign up.
Yeah, I'm working on that. Got a little sidebar going on that one. All right, so with that, we've made it before 9 o'clock and before my bedtime alarm went off. And I call this meeting adjourned.